This presentation focuses on the contexts that influence education and other human services programs. The presentation is called Understanding the Context of an Educational or Human Service Program, a necessary part of program evaluation. I am Margit Dudek, a researcher working for Word Farmers Associates. Effective program evaluation requires understanding the context of the program. The context affects not only the purpose of the program, but how it's implemented and how it should be evaluated. Context-sensitive evaluations identify the major elements of the program's context and consider those elements at every step in the evaluation, from planning the evaluation to collecting and analyzing the data to presenting the results. What are the important elements of a program's context? Perhaps most important are the stakeholders. The people and groups that hold a stake in the program also hold a stake in the evaluation of the program. Other elements of the program's context include its history, its potential for being expanded or replicated, its funding source and level, the cultural context of participants and staff, its geographic context, the socioeconomic context of participants, wider economic and political circumstances, and the prevailing beliefs in the research community about proper purposes and methods of program evaluation. Stakeholders form perhaps the most important element of the context. Stakeholders include all individuals and groups who were directly affected by the program and thus could be affected by the results of the evaluation. In evaluative terms, the stakeholders who are the most pertinent to the program evaluation are the people who are served by the program. However, the families of the individuals receiving services are also stakeholders. So, too, are the people who administer and staff the program, and people who belong to the community in which the program operates. Typical stakeholders are funding or sponsoring agencies, program staff, program participants, family members of program participants, members of the local community. The stakeholders who request the evaluation are often the first group of stakeholders that evaluators meet with, but there are many other stakeholders besides these decision makers. Decision makers' concerns are a major impetus for the evaluation. The impetus reflects key contextual elements that the program evaluators need to consider in planning the evaluation. In other words, the evaluator must learn what those who are requesting the evaluation want to learn about the program's merit or worth. What they want to learn reflects their relationship to the program. It also reflects the history of the program or programs like it, as well as current attitudes toward the program or programs like it. There is seldom only one reason for decision makers' interest in a program evaluation, but there is usually a main reason for the interest. When the decision-making stakeholders represent the interests of a sponsoring agency, the impetus for evaluation may be regulatory. That is, an evaluation may be needed to fulfill fiscal and monitoring responsibilities of the sponsoring agency. Regulatory may sound punitive, but regulations are standards that ensure the safety, fairness, and soundness of program practices. Regulatory agencies are charged with the responsibility of ensuring the merit of programs they oversee and fund, either fully or partially. Even when they do not provide funding of any kind, they may grant certifications or licenses that require them to monitor the programs or staff they certify or license. Decision makers who request program evaluation on behalf of sponsoring or regulatory agencies typically seek to determine whether descriptors such as the following are accurate. The program delivers the services it purports to deliver. The program satisfies ethical responsibilities to the people it serves, as well as to its staff. In other words, it provides equitable and respectful treatment to diverse groups. The program's benefits justify its costs. Political circumstances can affect the impetus for evaluation. For example, if a program that has an excellent history is in danger of facing funding cuts because of a changed political climate, stakeholders who are decision makers may want the evaluation to focus on the program benefits in order to justify current spending. Or they may want to evaluate the cost per benefit of particular program activities in order to see what activities might be changed or eliminated. Interest in evaluation is often driven by the impetus to improve the program's benefits to the people it serves. Although this impetus may accompany the regulatory impetus, it also comes from the concerns of program leaders and staff. Nevertheless, if it is not associated with an outside funding agent, there may be little support for an external evaluation. Depending on availability of funds, decision makers may request external evaluation, internal evaluation, or a combination of the two in order to discover whether changes could improve the program, and if so, what types of changes. An interest in improving a program focuses the concerns of its evaluators on the nature of the program's impact on the people it serves, the importance of the program's benefits to the people it serves, the significance of the program to the community, shortcomings in the program's services or benefits, changes implied by the shortcomings. Another impetus for program evaluation is decision makers' interest in publicizing, replicating, or expanding the program. In the case of publicly funded programs, this impetus often includes interest in offering the program as a model that could be replicated in other locations. Among the issues that the decision makers want the evaluation to address are those relating to resources needed for replication of a program whose effectiveness is demonstrable, documentation of the impact of the program, its nature and extent, evidence of a need for expansion or replication, evidence of the potential benefits to a larger or different client group, documentation of efficient use of resources. The stakeholders who request the program evaluation are the individuals, groups, or agencies who are in a position to decide what to do based on those results. Evaluators must work closely with them in developing an evaluation plan, but the evaluation must reflect other contexts as well, including one closely related to the decision maker's impetus for evaluation. That is, the evaluation budget. As noted earlier, the amount of funding available for evaluation influences the evaluation's design, methods of collecting data, methods of analyzing data, and even the interpretation and reporting of results. The context of program funding raises such questions as: how will qualitative data, such as interview responses, be transcribed? Are relevant information sources and data sets readily available? Do new evaluation instruments need to be developed? Understanding the cultural context of a program requires evaluators' awareness of their own cultural assumptions. It also requires that they respect cultural differences represented by stakeholders. Awareness of cultural context should guide the development of evaluation activities and instruments. Such awareness helps ensure the cultural appropriateness of evaluation activities and instruments. It is attentive to participants' ethnicity, race, gender, religion, age, or social class, and to their cultural beliefs and practices. Although the program itself is often designed in consideration of stakeholders' characteristics and presumed needs, program developers may not be sufficiently aware of how stakeholders view their own needs or programs designed to address their needs. Different stakeholders often have different ideas about what the program is and what it should do. In designing the evaluation, program evaluators must identify important differences in perspective and consider how to balance their potential influence on the evaluation design, methods, and interpretation of results. The geographic context of the program should be considered in planning, conducting, and presenting findings of the evaluation. Accessibility is one of the most important issues to consider in regard to geographic context. Evaluating a rural program may require different data collection methods than those used in an urban or suburban program. For example, a focus group may be a poor choice of data collection method where participants have to drive a long distance to participate in the group. Geographic factors may make the timing of evaluation activities important too. For example, program participation, as well as participation in evaluation activities, may be dramatically affected by winter weather in some areas. The socioeconomic context, as reflected in the status of participants served by the program, is also an important consideration. Unless it is taken into account, it may present barriers to collecting representative data and consequently to valid findings. For example, families that live in poverty may be justifiably wary of programs designed to help them or their children. Their wariness might cause them to ignore requests to complete surveys about the program, or it might cause them to provide overly positive, or for that matter, overly negative, responses to evaluators' questions about the program. Differences in the socioeconomic status of participants and staff sometimes create imbalances in power that impact program dynamics and therefore also the dynamics of program evaluations. For example, affluent parents often believe they should be the ones to determine the services their children receive, while less affluent parents believe that program staff are the ones to determine the services their children receive. Although power differentials are not the same in these two cases, they play a role in program delivery and program evaluation in both cases. Economic and political contexts can have an impact on program and evaluation activities. Economic setbacks in the community, for example, may make stakeholders less willing to enroll in the program. Such economically driven events as riffing teachers may affect teacher and student morale, and consequently their participation in program and evaluation activities. Even the introduction of legislation relating to the service provided by the program may predict an imminent increase or decrease in funding. A context-sensitive evaluation takes into account possible positive and negative influences of local economic and political contexts. According to the American Evaluation Association, all evaluators have obligations that encompass the public interest and good, an important context. When the program evaluation is supported by public funding, this wider context with its obligations is clear. However, threats to the public welfare, sometimes only understandable in terms of the program context, should be called to the attention of stakeholders and/or pertinent agencies. Program evaluators' own professional context, created by the research community, demands attention to interests beyond those of the stakeholders. Seeking contextual understanding through collaboration with stakeholders at every stage of the evaluative process increases the likelihood of getting valid results. Collaboration with representatives of different groups of stakeholders clarifies the program context and forestalls its becoming a barrier to effective evaluation. during the evaluation planning stage, especially in developing a program description. Such collaboration creates awareness and shows respect for different perspectives. During data collection, furthering contextual understanding through collaboration fosters cooperation and representative participation. During the analysis phase, collaboration for greater contextual awareness contributes to a nuanced interpretation that recognizes relationships among contextual elements and their bearing on evaluative findings. During development of presentations of results and recommendations, collaboration for contextual understanding helps ensure the presentation's accessibility and usefulness, as well as its dissemination to the full range of stakeholders. To review, let's turn for a minute to the diagram of the various contextual influences on programs and the evaluation of those programs. These influences include the program's stakeholders, its history, its potential for being expanded or replicated, its funding source and level, the cultural context of participants and staff, its geographic context, the socioeconomic context of participants, wider economic and political circumstances, and the prevailing beliefs in the research community about proper purposes and methods of program evaluation.